Welcome to a realm where personal growth meets expansive spirituality and where we're not just scratching the surface. We're diving deep, widening our perspectives, and having a darn good time doing it. This is the Enlightened Podcast, and I am your host, Jen Hamilton. You'll enjoy an infusion of motivation, empowerment, and inspiration that will resonate in every aspect of your life. Expect captivating stories, heartfelt musings, and my own personal experiences. But that's not all. I'm bringing awe-inspiring individuals to the table, so get ready to meet some remarkable souls whose wisdom and stories will leave you spellbound. No topic is off limits here. Brace yourself for raw authenticity, unfiltered vulnerability, and yes, the occasional splash of explicit language. We're delving into the realms of the esoteric, mystical, and the woo-woo, unafraid to explore the extraordinary. So if you are ready to venture beyond the surface, to explore the depths of your soul, and to awaken the magic of life, if your heart says yes, then hit that play button and let the Enlightened Podcast guide you on this remarkable expedition. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Enlightened Podcast. I'm your host, Jen, and my guest today is Michele Johnston. She is the powerhouse behind Fiercely Authentic Coaching. Raised with strict ideals, she married young and became a devoted mother of four. For years, she masked her struggles to fit society's perfect mold. But when her kids grew, she prioritized self-care. Pushing a truck full of kettlebells was her aha moment, revealing her incredible strength, physically and mentally. Michele dove into fitness and embarked on a journey of self-discovery, self-love, adventure, and grace. Now, as a life and empowerment coach, she empowers fierce women to rediscover their authentic selves, fall in love with their quirks, and live life unapologetically. Michele's energy is absolutely captivating. I know you're going to love this conversation that we had. So without further ado, let's dive in. Michele, welcome to the Enlightened Podcast. It's so amazing to have you here. How are you?
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. I'm great. It's a fantastic day. Can't complain.
I love that already. I love that already. Now, Michele, you do some pretty incredible things in the world. You're a social media manager and an empowerment coach. Tell us all about the magic that you bring to the world.
Sure. Well, I love social media management, and that's kind of where I've been transitioning from. I love tapping into the creativity that being in social media brings with the graphics and the content and all that fun stuff. So I do that on the down low, but my main focus is an empowerment coach. So, and I primarily work with women who are in this phase in life that has been known as the midlife crisis. However, to me, crisis is like a bad word. It's a midlife awakening. So I work with women who are in the spot of rediscovery, finding that all of a sudden they've lost themselves in the journey of life, rather whether it was motherhood or professional CEO, life building, whatever it may be. I feel like we all kind of land in that moment of like, oh shit, who am I? What am I doing? What makes me happy? And that's where I come in to help guide women, help them find what lights their soul on fire and, move towards a more fulfilling and purposeful and super authentic life.
I love that midlife awakening. I am here for that. Tell us about like what is the catalyst that you're seeing for women coming through? Is it purely an age thing? Is it that they've perhaps gone through, the archetype of going from maiden to motherhood and they're not quite in the crone up archetype, but they're kind of like, what even is life? Like, what the fuck am I doing here? What is this all about? What is the catalyst that you're noticing is perhaps a pattern across, the women that you're working with?
Well, that's exactly what you were saying. Like people, and myself included, dive into those stereotypical roles of what a perfect wife and a woman and a mother should be. And in the process of trying to reach these expectations and these roles, you end up losing your individuality and your identity. So I'm finding that a lot of these women are, hitting their mid 30s, 40s, 50s, and all of a sudden feel like they no longer have a purpose, whether their kids have grown and are out of the house, or they've now reached the highest they can, and professionally they have that moment of, who am I, what's my purpose? Or I wanted to start a family, but I was so focused on career, and now what am I going to have moving forward in life? So definitely that loss of purpose, sense of purpose hits really hard.
And tell us about where, when they come to you and they're feeling this way, they're really wanting to, dive deep into themselves and discover what their purpose is. What does it look like as far as the journey that you take them on?
Mhm. So, first and foremost, we smash through any sort of negative narratives that they've been carrying their entire lives. Um, like for me, it was a strict religious upbringing where I was taught how I should be as a wife and as a mother. And to me, that was my purpose, to be a wife and a mom. And so we go back, we just totally dissect and regress, so to speak, down to identify what narratives, whether it's external or something that you placed in your own head, you've been carrying, that has kept you in this cycle of, you know, trying to be something that you're not, or reaching these expectations. And once we can identify those, then we can work through that negative narrative and really I help women release that negative mindset, break, like I said, break through those narratives. And then once we do that, then we can start rebuilding that foundation again and start that rediscovery. But it's really getting rid of that negative mindset or narrative that we all carry throughout our life, whatever that may be.
Why do you think that this affects women so much? I in my own
Mm.
experience and in my lineage and with all the women that I've worked with or been around, they carry this. Like, where did this come from? How did we get here?
Yeah. How did we get to this point of having to be everything to everyone all of the time, and then stifle all our feelings down and our voices? you know, um, it's such a generational thing. It has been handed down through the generations in our lineage. And, really how women have always been perceived as being less than men, not having that voice, but always having that expectation to be everything to everyone all of the time. And I think we're in a really amazing place in time where women are really stepping into their power now and finding their voice, and like platforms like your podcast, like breaking through these taboos and these stereotypes and empowering other women to step into their power. We're in a really amazing time right now.
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? Because I mean, like, let's call a spade a spade. Fuck the patriarchy
Right.
for contributing to this
Right.
show for women. Now that I got that out of the way.
Okay, I mean, I was kind of beating around the bush, but right to the point.
Like, this is the thing. We're seeing it so much, so we're seeing a pattern. We're seeing things happening for women that are almost copy paste. Like you said, it's women that are coming through that are, in between stages of life, essentially, that are going through the same thing. I'm really curious, Michelle, like, what was your journey? What was your experience to come to where you are today to then step into being an empowerment coach for other people?
Sure. Yeah, like I said, I came from a really strict religious background where I was taught my entire life how I was expected and how I should be, how I was supposed to be. And as I ended up getting married at 23 and had my first of four kids at 23. And I really genuinely felt like being a wife and a mom was my sole purpose in life. And so I dove headfirst into those roles and, didn't think anything of it. Um, Little did I realize I was losing myself in the process. My sole focus was on raising my kids and honestly putting on that perfect front of the perfect family to reach these expectations that had been instilled in me. Um, Literally trying to be a Martha Stewart. And, boy, it was a losing battle. Um, and so that was very difficult. So I was putting on this facade of being like the perfect, picture perfect, wife, mom on the outside and holding a perfect family. But on the inside, I was losing my shit. I wasn't happy. Um, I struggled with depression. And I was continuously going to therapy. I would have these like meltdowns, and I go to therapy because I was like, okay, it's a me problem, obviously. And, I kept evolving and growing and learning more and more about myself. And that really kind of ignited that passion of self discovery and wanting to dig deeper into learning more about myself. So I always had like little bits of self love that I try to do and tried to take care of myself, but it wasn't very difficult or wasn't very easy with four kids. So my pivotal moment, my moment where I was sitting with myself, wondering what the heck I was doing in life, was when my youngest went to preschool. And all of a sudden, I had this free time on my hands. I could only clean the house so much. I could only stock up on the groceries so much before I was at a point sitting at the kitchen table just by myself, wondering, okay, now what? Now what am I going to do? I don't have any hobbies. All my hobbies have been like fancy glitter crafts off Pinterest for the last 15 years, you know, like, and making meal plans. So what am I going to do? Um, so for me, since I had been focusing on my family so much, I hadn't been taking care of myself like most moms do. And I'd gained weight. I was pre diabetic and had chronic hypertension. So for me, the first step in taking care of me was to be taking back my health. And so I started on this journey of health and fitness and also trying to find hobbies. And this is what I talk to a lot of my clients, the women that I work with, is like, let's strip it down to like the bare basics. I used to take our holiday photographs and I thought, okay, well, maybe I want to explore photography a little bit more. I've always wanted to learn about investing in stocks. Maybe I'll take a class and learn about investing. And so I looked at my community resources. So not only did I start moving my body more and getting the endorphins and all the good stuff and feeling like I'm now taking care of myself, I started exploring and getting really curious about what's out in the great big wide world out there and tapping into my community resources. And that's really what kind of started that momentum towards rediscovering myself, is getting really curious and then practicing self-love along with it.
I love that so much. The self love piece is such a big one, isn't it?
Mhm.
Tell us about how you found the strength. Like, it's kind of a big deal to get to the point where you've been mothering for 15 years and
Mhm.
all of a sudden it's like tumbleweeds because you're at home by yourself. All the kids are off at school now, and you're like,
Mhm.
well, who the fuck am I? What am I doing here? What
Mhm.
is my purpose in life when I don't have to do the glitter thing anymore?
Yes.
How did you find the strength? Because it takes a lot to look at ourselves and go inwards.
It does. at the time, YouTube was the big thing. So I was looking at YouTube for influencers and, joining some Facebook groups, just really, and now it would be podcasts. I would say get on and start listening to podcasts, and anyone who their message resonates with you, you like feel that vibe through their podcast, like that's what you want to be listening to. You want to be listening to people who empower you to start building this self-love and self-care motivation. And that's what's really kind of help you discover your self-worth and that strength to start looking inward and start taking care of yourself. So I would say definitely start listening to podcasts. Look outward before looking inward is kind of the thing. But that's what I did. And I started reading some self-love books, just anything that resonated with me, because I didn't have anyone to talk to. I couldn't talk to my husband at the time. He would never get it. And all of my girlfriends were friends from church, and they wouldn't understand, because we were all trying to be perfect, you know, so they wouldn't get it either. So I started kind of grasping for straws, looking for anyone that didn't make me feel like I was alone in my
Mm,
process.
yeah, I love.
And yeah, so that was ev- even though I was physically alone in my process, like virtually, I didn't feel alone. And that really gave me the strength and the desire to keep pushing on and keep discovering more about myself and really find what my happy was. And once
Mm,
I found what made me happy, what my happy was, it became a non negotiable.
I love that, and
Hmm.
it's so important to find those things, that find what makes us happy, find what brings us joy, and for me, that comes down to what we value. To I've got a free resource on my website. It's called Visualize Your Values. And it's an
Hmm.
ebook, and it's a meditation to do a visualization to visualize what your best day would look like. If you got to the end of the day and you're like, fuck, that was the best day ever. And then you got to the end of the week and you're like, fuck, that was the best week ever. And then you got to the end of your life and you're like, fuck, that was the best life ever.
Yeah.
So we start to get a visualization of what that looks
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
But then we want to break down, like, okay, so what was happening in your day that made it the best day ever? What was
Mhm.
happening in your week that made it the best week ever? What happened over the span of your life to make it the best life ever? And from there, we can start to extract what those values are and literally create habits around what it is that actually just brings us joy. Because at the end of the day, we're not here just to be mothers as women or wives or cooks or homemakers. I mean, if that's your purpose and that's what you want to do, freaking go nuts. I mean, look, I wouldn't mind if a man came along and was like, hey, baby, could you want to be like a housewife for like a year and I'll take care of everything and you can like go shopping, but just have the dinner on the table? I would froth over that. I would be like, oh, God, that sounds like a freaking holiday to me right now. I couldn't do it. I didn't think I could do it long term, but I can fantasize about it.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, we get to decide
Yeah.
what it is that we value the most and then build our lives around that. And I think
Mhm.
that's so important, especially when we've been in that, that really that like balls deep in motherhood, that it is our whole existence, especially if we've raised our kids up until the time that they go to school. If we haven't been career focused, if we haven't done any study, if literally all of our existence has been around raising babies and, making a home, of course we're going to have an existential crisis. I
Yeah.
mean, that's kind of a given, isn't it? But I think there's so much magic in that space as well, because it's going to highlight the discomfort that we feel to go, okay, this is so wildly uncomfortable. I'm not sitting this shit anymore. I need to create change. And I think that's a beautiful place to be in, because that's then the catalyst to feel empowered to create change.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Like that oh shit moment, that scary spot is it's absolutely the catalyst to get you to move forward, to get you to evolve, to get you to level up and really get aligned with what your journey is, what you're going to be working towards in your purpose.
I know there'd be some women listening to this going, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
I don't even know what self-love is. I don't even have a sense of self-worth because my whole life I've given to the church, or I've given to my
Mm.
family, or I've done what society says that I have to do. So I don't even know what that feels like. So for anyone listening, Michelle, what would you say to them?
Well, a big piece for me once I decided to, you know, start that rediscovery process and started getting into the self love and started listening to these things that, you know, I could better identify with myself, like what I had been missing all these years. I really had to I came to a place of where I had a lot of resentment because I looked back and I felt like I had spent half of my life trying to be this fucking person that I was supposed to be because everyone else told me, and that's what I thought I was supposed to be, but I that's not how I am. And so I felt really angry at first and I had a lot of resentment because I felt like I had wasted so much time not being truly happy. So the first big piece for me was learning how to let that go and to forgive myself for doing the best with what knowledge I had. I was doing the best with what I had. And I needed to let the anger go and I needed to forgive myself for not knowing any better. And once I was able to get past that, then I could start looking forward and moving forward. So I would like like I said earlier, identifying those negative narratives, identifying any little piece that's holding you back from moving forward, process them, work through them, deep breath, let it go. It's your past life. You have the rest of your life ahead of you. Let's do this. And then you start looking at reading, looking at the podcast again. And you start getting curious. Like I was saying, trying all the shit, do the scary shit. Oh my God. Like if so I did some aerial like dance, like with silks and the hoops and the whole things, because I was like, that looks so fucking fun. I want to try that. I don't care that I'm like 40 years old, and everyone else is like 16. I'm going to I'm going to try it. And so do the scary shit. Just, it's, you're starting new, which is so fucking amazing. It's like clean slate.
Mm.
Along with that, you want to give yourself some grace because it's a huge learning curve. You're learning all about yourself for like the first time, really. A lot of us for the first time. So move forward with grace. You're going to fuck up, you're going to fall, you're going to stumble, but the wins are going to so far outweigh like all the stumbling blocks. So be able to forgive yourself, be able to move forward with grace, get fucking curious about life, do the hard shit, because with the struggles comes the learning and the progress. And you're just going to keep on going and the momentum's going to go and you're going to hit walls, and that's okay. You're going to learn from it and you're going to move past it and you're going to be better for it. And you're just going to keep evolving in your process.
I love it so much. And one of the things I love to say is like, you can call plot twist at any time. That
Yes.
is your birthright, to call
Yeah.
plot twist. And we are designed to stay in our comfort zones for safety, but there's got to be a point where you're like, I'm actually safe to step into the unknown. It's about finding that strength. And, if we haven't put ourselves out there, or if we haven't gone to the aerial class, or if we haven't had, the deep conversations that, we want to have, or explore the things that we've never explored before, it could be a kink. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
it could be something that you're
Yeah.
like, I've always wanted to do this in the bedroom, and I've been too afraid to speak to my partner about it or explore it on my own. Like,
Yeah.
there's this, we got to listen to that little burning desire within us that says there is more to this, that I've got to explore what that is. And there's so much magic in just recognizing where we get to step out of our comfort zone. And our comfort zone is amazing for when we just need to exist in that and balance our nervous system. But I find, taking those small steps just to find my edge is what ends up being the bigger leaps. And for me personally, I love skydiving. I've been bungee jumping. I hate cold water, but I love cold plunges or getting into a freezing cold
Oh
ocean
God.
because I meet a new version of myself. Like for me,
Yeah.
that's a physical edge, but there's also an emotional, a mental, and spiritual edge that I'm meeting underneath all of that, and
Hmm.
allowing myself to be so uncomfortable that the version of me that gets to exist after that is not who I left behind at the top of the platform or
Right.
in the plane or before I jumped in the water.
Right? I am so much the same. I'm like a 0 to 100 girl. Like, I live so much of my life, like, in the comfort zone and, worrying about judgment and worrying about what other people would think. Like, I fucking take the leap on everything now too. Like, being in California on the West Coast, like, I have a huge fear of sharks. But my husband and I went to Hawaii a couple of years ago and did an open sea dive with the sharks. That was like our one thing on the bucket list. So I'm like, there's just something about pushing your boundaries just a little bit. If you're not hurting yourself, you're not hurting others, then test the fucking limits. I love everything that you said about pushing those boundaries and the limits, because you do learn, you're so much better for it, and you learn so much more about yourself. And it's just those little like level ups that's so amazing.
It's so true, isn't it? And I reflect on this weekly, like especially in my business. So I ask myself
Mhm.
this week, what is my big bold move?
Mm.
And then finding what those edges are. Where do I squirm a little bit? Where
Yeah.
do I feel like I'm on the platform of that, from the bungee and I'm like, fuck, I'm the only one that's got to jump here. And this is what I love
Mhm.
about skydiving and bungee jumping. So I've been skydiving, I don't know, 4 or 5 times, bungee jumping once. And I was always scared of bungee jumping because bungee jumping is the same mechanics of suicide. You have to jump, you're in charge,
Yeah.
right? Whereas skydiving, when you're tandem, you're strapped to someone and they do all of the work. So you just kind of
Mhm.
like shuffle out of the plane. You're sitting on the edge of the plane. You don't actually decide when you roll out of the plane.
Mhm.
The guy with all the knowledge and the parachute does that. And I
It's a
love handing over that power, right? But with bungee, man, that was a head fuck. Like, I used to have a fear of
yeah.
stairs that didn't have, um like, where you could see through the stairs as you were walking up. Massive
Oh.
freaking phobia my whole entire life. And I remember I was up in Cairns earlier this year, and I knew that I wanted to go bungee jumping, and basically we got off the plane and went straight to the bungee center. And I remember walking up the stairs, and it was a beautiful day, but it was breezy, and, like, the breeze coming through the stairs, I was already just, like, shitting myself being on the stairs walking up. And there was me and one other guy that were doing the jump, and then obviously the instructors. And we got to the top and they're like, who wants to go first? I'm like, me, because I always try and put my hand up first for things because it's a big freaking edge, right? And I remember getting to the top of the platform and they were like, okay, when you're ready. And I was like, oh God, like you can't think about it because the more you think about it, the more you ruminate in fear and like what could go wrong. And like it can totally constrict you. And I feel like it's such an incredible representation of how we can be in life. I mean, how we are in small ways is how we are in all ways. So when I was at the top of that platform, I'm like, I look back and I'm like, so I just jump. And they're like, yeah, just jump. And like just lean forward and like swan dive. And I did not look like a fucking swan, I'll tell you that much.
I
But it's interesting because I had a GoPro strapped to my hand. So like I was trying to be mindful, like I want this GoPro to capture my facial expressions. And then I had my family on the ground filming it, like my poor children. They could have been traumatized from it, but they weren't. And they have cameras throughout the center as well because then they make a compilation of a video. And I love watching this video back because you can literally see on my face where it goes from fear to absolute pleasure. I shit you not, Michelle. I had an orgasm bungee jumping. It was
Oh
amazing.
my
Like, I
God.
literally allowed the pleasure to flow through my body that I was like, fuck.
Okay,
It's
it's on my
safe.
bucket list now. Okay, I got to try this.
Oh, just everyone out there, like, I was just like, oh, okay. It was such an incredible experience. You can
Oh,
literally see there is a video on my Instagram from it, and you can see my facial expression shift. And all I did was decide that I was jumping off that platform, not knowing what that feeling would be like. Also knowing, one, how safe I was. You know,
mhm.
the bungee jumping is actually probably one of the safest things that you can do, and it doesn't fuck you back like my mum tried to convince me that it would. All sorts of things. I remember, my first time skydiving, and I fell in love with it because I was so fearful, and I overcome it, that I fucking loved that version of me afterwards that just freaking did it. And when we allow ourselves to have those big, bold moves, to face off with our fears, to feel the fear and do it anyway, the version of us that exists is so liberated and so free, and can be so happy and joyful and have really fucking good stories from it.
Right? Literally just said the word I was going to say. It is the most liberating and empowering moment ever. When you
Yeah.
do those bold actions, those bold moves, it's so fucking liberating. And
Yeah.
you are a completely different version of yourself afterwards.
Yeah, and that would be, like swimming with the sharks and doing the
Mhm.
things that you've got fear around, because fear is just confused excitement. It's
Yeah.
the same physiological response in the body, and I'm not talking about like life-threatening fear. I'm talking about
Mhm.
that little voice that says, "Oh, we probably shouldn't do that because it might not be safe, and like this could go wrong, and this could be uncomfortable." I
Yeah.
love that part of me. I listen to her. I'm like, "That's cute, babe, but we're doing the thing." Right? So I
Right.
don't wanna make her wrong, because she's in there, like,
Yeah.
sometimes, like, she's like my voice of reason to keep me safe.
Right.
Other times I'm like, "Pipe down, you hooligan, I've got this." Like,
Right. Stop overthinking the shit and just do it. Yeah.
exactly, and like I said, how we are in small ways is how we are in
Yeah.
all ways. So I know that if
Yeah.
I can jump off a platform with a rope tied to my legs, or I can, be strapped to someone to, like, jump from 15,000 foot out of an airplane, I can do fucking anything. I can face off with
Right.
my shadows. I can get uncomfortable. And this is
Yeah.
why I love those edge pushers, because
Mhm.
it is there we find ourselves. It is there we experience liberation. It's there where we experience such freedom, not only on a physical level, but the freedom in our minds, because we are
Yes.
free of the fear. We are free of that little voice that says we can't, and we prove to ourselves that we can. And what a fucking
Mhm.
gift that is.
Yes, absolutely. One of my favorite sayings is one of the greatest privileges in life is the opportunity to continuously evolve. And
Mm,
that's what these big pushing to the edge, big moments. And, you know, we're talking about big impact moments, but we worked our way to these big impact moments. Everything starts with the small steps, the small action steps, just pushing, pushing, pushing. And then you start getting into your groove and it feels really fucking good. And so you keep pushing more and more. That growth process, that seeing yourself grow and evolve is just so fucking amazing.
mm. Yeah, it's such a powerful thing to do. And I think,
Mhm.
you might not be an adrenaline junkie, right? Someone might be
Mhm.
thinking of this going, these women are fucking nuts, and I'll give up the
Yeah.
orgasm just to, jump
Yeah.
off a platform, right? The thing is, for some people, their edge might be having a difficult conversation with a
Yeah.
partner or a loved one. It could even be creating a boundary that expresses how they feel, that says, I will not be treated like this anymore, or this is not
Yeah.
okay for me anymore, or this is what I want. This is what I desire. This is how I want to experience pleasure
Hmm.
moving forward. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be extreme sports. I'm down for that because that shit's cool, but
Yeah.
it also has given me the power to have difficult conversations because
Hmm.
it's just become part of my DNA. I'm encoded to go feel the fear and do it anyway. Of
Yeah.
course, you've got this. You've made it through this far.
Right. I would have never in a million years, like, I mean, honestly, I would never in a million years would have thought I would be speaking on a podcast. Absolutely no way, no how. Like, I was the girl you call on me on class and I turn bright red and I want to puke. But it's like the little steps, just like you were saying. And in my journey, it was being able to be brave enough to say no and set boundaries. Like, I think that's really huge for a lot of women in this process. Learning how to say no without feeling guilty or that I was letting people down, and having boundaries without shame involved. So it's huge when you finally have that moment where you're like, oh, I'm at the bottom of the totem pole, and then starts putting your foot down, saying the no's. And it's super difficult, especially with family, especially when you're a people pleaser. So even those like itty bitty steps of saying like no for the first time, being brave. I mean, I so remember like my heart was pounding and I was like all sweaty. And I'm pretty sure my voice was jittering when I said no somehow. And, but it's that fear of letting people down, fear of standing up for yourself, fear of having that voice but the more you do it, the more you take your power back, and it just grows and it gets bigger and bigger. And then you start doing like even more fantastic, wonderful things that you never expected you would ever be able to do.
It's so true. And for me, it's about visualizing and feeling and experiencing what is on the other side of that conversation. Yes, my voice is going to shake when I'm putting up boundaries or saying no to something I genuinely
Mhm.
don't want to do, or saying yes to something that feels really freaking uncomfortable, but I know is going to support me in my growth or my
Mhm.
evolution. So I think about, okay, who do I get to be on the other side of that?
Yeah.
And who will I be if I just keep staying in this space that I'm in? Because that doesn't spark joy either. We're only on this earth for such a short period of time. We're here to grow and evolve and to learn lessons and have experiences. I sure as shit don't want to get to my deathbed at like 124 because they're going to invent a cure for old age by the time I get there. I don't want to get to my deathbed at 124 and be like, well, that was boring and mediocre. Oh, I wish I had said the things that I
Yeah.
wanted to say, or gone the places that I wanted to go, or did the things that I wanted to do. I don't want to be sidelined in this life. If we
Mhm.
look at the esoteric side of life, where it's like, okay, what did we have to do to get here? What was our karmic contract that we signed off on to get here? Why did we put our hand up to be here, for this great awakening? I ask myself this all the time. I'm like, what was I thinking? Of course I put my hand up, be like, I'll go to earth, I'll go. How did I get here? I'm like, oh, dickhead, why didn't you just keep your mouth shut? Like, when I
Yeah.
realize I'm here for a reason, and I'm here to
Yeah.
support other people who want to break free from those limiting beliefs, for the sacred rebels, and the people that want to decondition and break the change and like do the work to break free from all of the conditioning that says that we can't be a certain way. I have to be a leader in that space, so I've got to go first.
Yeah.
So I'm the one that jumps off the bungee platform. I'm the one that jumps out of the planes. I'm the one that creates the boundaries. I'm the one that has those conversations. I'm the one that
Yeah.
has the podcast and says, come here and talk to me, and you can swear all you want, Michelle. Like,
Yeah, it's holding that safe, judgment-free space
yeah,
for women to
yes.
be who they've always been meant to be.
Yes, I constantly check in. Like, we talk so much in the personal development space about doing inner child
Mhm.
work. Yes, it is powerful as fuck. I'm a huge advocate for it. I work through a lot of that with my clients, but I also work with my old lady. So I
Mhm.
work with my crone, right? And I'd be thinking to myself, what would she be thinking right now? What would she be saying to me? Like, I've got a little girl, my inner child, looking up at me, being like, oh, wow, you're doing the things, I'm so proud of you. what is my old lady looking back at me going, oh, come on, do the thing because we want to get to the end here and we want to have some cool stories for the grandkids,
Right.
and this dropped in for me. Like, it's been dropping in for quite some time, but it dropped in for me massively earlier this year when I was overseas with my mum. And it was very unfortunate. We were in Paris. She actually had a fall and broke her hip. And
Mm.
so, and she's not got the best of bones following chemotherapy 20 years ago. And she's not been in the best of health, the last number of years. But what
Yeah.
that showed me was, come on, Jen, you're in your 30s now. What are you doing to continually support your health so that when you
Mhm.
get to that age, you have strong bones, you have strong muscles, you have strong ligaments, you can get around, you can climb mountains and go for big hikes and do deep sea dives. And,
Mhm.
what am I doing now to
Yeah.
honor the old lady that exists at 124 years old on her deathbed going, oh, that was a fucking amazing one.
Oh my
Right? Because
God.
we're
Yeah.
we're constantly doing things for our inner child, but what are we doing for our
Yeah.
inner little old lady?
Yeah, I love that. I think about her too. Everyone, I was like, okay, we're gonna have an amazing story. Like, I'm 47 now. I'm like, okay, I made through my child rearing years, but this other half after my awakening, my God, like doing all the things, and it's just fucking amazing. And my husband and I ended up divorcing during my awakening and I'm remarried. But oftentimes we talk about like, oh, too bad we didn't meet each other when we were younger, but we also completely understand we had to go through all the shit to get to a place where it was universal timing for us to meet. Like it was the perfect timing. And like you said, living to 124, meeting at 40, like we actually still have like the other half of our life to live, like a whole other lifetime together.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's the stuff that you do now, how you take care of yourself, like not only physically but mentally. And this generation of women coming through, I mean, so fucking strong and you know so empowering. And I can't say it enough. It's truly like amazing to watch. And it really, really lights my soul on fire. And I get so excited about supporting women finding their happy and finding what lights their souls on fire too. Because like every single woman deserves this happy, this excitement, this fulfillment, this sense of purpose that we do. And I just can't do enough to support women in that process to get there.
Yes, you and me, sister. You and me just lighting up this world with our light. I get it.
Woo-hoo.
I want to circle back to something that you said because this happened for me. This happened for you. I see it so much when you go through the awakening process and you end up separated or divorced.
Mhm.
This mine came. So this was with my children's father. I was at the start of my wake. I didn't even know it was an awakening at the time. I just knew I was
Yeah,
wildly fucking uncomfortable. I
yeah,
was engaged. We had two little kids, and I was like, "There's got to be more." And I
yeah.
ended the relationship, and like with backlash from my family, like, "How dare you? How could you do
Mhm.
this? Like, how could you do this to the children, to them?" And I said, like in the grand scheme of things, I'm not going to lie, it was a pretty amicable separation.
Mhm.
And I said, like, I love you, but I need to love me more and I need to discover who I am. And him and I, like, it's been 6 years now. We're on great terms. We co-parent like superstars. We have our moments, but he's married, he's happy. I don't know what I am. I'm doing all of the things. He's living my
You're
life.
doing all the things.
I'm fresh out of it. I'm fresh, like, months out of a 3-year relationship. I've got no fucking clue what's going on, and I'm happy with that. But I'm constantly on this journey of self-discovery. And even, my
Mhm.
relationship that ended 6 months ago, again, another further awakening, another level of me opening up my consciousness inwards and him having his own journey, that it literally just took us on different paths. We're like, okay, this
Yeah.
timeline's actually dissolved now. So
Yeah.
I see it all the time. And I also see a lot of women in fear of, divorce or leaving their partner and all the stigma around that, or
Mhm.
what, like, not even safe. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do with
Yeah.
the kids. I don't know how I'm going to survive financially. There is logistics behind separation that keeps a
Mhm.
lot of women back. And I feel like that's massively suppressing women in their stages of awakening because of separation.
Yeah.
So let's go there. Tell us what your experience was with that.
Yeah. Well, so I part of my journey was this fitness journey and nutrition, and I fell so in love with it. It became my non-negotiable piece. That hour was mine. Everyone understood it. And, if it didn't happen after the kids went to school, I was doing it after I tucked them in bed at night. But the kids knew they were cool. I pushed myself to the limits and decided I was going to do a fitness competition. In fact, I ended up doing 3 of them. But what came along, so yeah, the 0 to 100, that liberation piece,
I'm seeing a
going
pattern and I love it.
I call it my sister wife to hot wife phase, because I really went from like frumpy everything to being up on a stage in a bling bikini and fucking hooker heels, and I did the shit. I rocked it. And what came with it was a lot of attention, social media wise. When I shared it on social media, a lot of women were coming to me, how did you do that? If you can do it, I could probably do it. I started getting offers for sponsors with athletic companies and whatnot. And my husband sits me down the day after my first competition and says, we need to have a talk. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, where do I stand as your husband? I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Like, everything's the same. The outer shell's different, but the inside's all the same. And ultimately, all the attention on me that had never, ever been there before brought up huge insecurities for him. And our marriage ended up becoming very controlling and psychologically abusive. We tried to work it out about 5 years. And I ended up leaving because through all the inner work that I had done and the self love and pushing my boundaries and stepping into my power, I finally was in a place where I knew my self worth and I knew I deserved to be happy. So I was faced with a decision of fighting for my happiness or staying in an 18-year marriage with 4 kids. And I chose my happiness and I walked away. And it was not a friendly divorce. He didn't want it. It was very, very difficult. But I also got the kickback from family and friends because people didn't understand. People hadn't been seeing the evolving and the growth I'd been doing personally. So they didn't quite understand like where I was coming from. I mean, I remember my parents having the grass is not greener on the other side, Michelle, conversation with me. And I also I hid the abuse that was going on too. So no one knew what was going on until I finally came out to my parents about it. And then they backed me 100%. But so that whole awakening bit, the whole stepping into my power, the whole I'm no longer an introverted housewife, um, really caused a rift in my marriage. And I've seen it time and time again with my friends too, where they have stepped into who they authentically were and their spouse wasn't on board with it. So yeah, that's how mine that's how mine went down.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? Because to me, it's a reflection of conditional love. I loved you when you
Mhm.
fit into the box that I put you in. I
Right.
loved you until I
Mhm.
loved you because, but not anymore. I can't love this version of you because you're triggering the
Mhm.
parts that I refuse to look at. And I'm not going to go on record to say I'm an absolute advocate for divorce, but look, it is an option, And this is the
Yes.
thing. I see it so much because of the fucking indoctrination of society, of religion, of how we grew up. of all of the pieces that says you have to stay
Mhm.
married. You have to you made your bed, you sleep in it. You know,
Yeah.
you can't leave because like divorce is frowned upon, especially culturally. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember, like I'm 37 now, back in primary school, and because I grew up Catholic, went to a Catholic school, Catholic
Mhm.
church, right? There was maybe like one kid in the class whose parents got divorced, and it was so taboo. It was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Or I remember there was one particular person at our church, and it's like she had her rights stripped from her. She couldn't receive communion after she got divorced because
Mhm.
it's like a Catholic thing, but there was like
Yeah.
so much shame then put on her. I mean, what the fuck? What
Right.
the actual fuck? This is
Yeah.
not okay. And this is where us as, empowerment mentors and coaches
Mhm.
have to come in and not necessarily say, well, your best option here is divorce. Absolutely not what I'm
Right.
saying. But get really fucking clear on your values and then your boundaries that align with those. And if you cannot come to a safe agreement or a safe space to be with your partner to work through that, then yes, have an exit plan and check the fuck out,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
staying stuck in that and staying under the influence of society, of religion, of whatever
Mhm.
indoctrination that is playing small. It is dimming your light. And that
Yeah.
is not okay. We need to rise beyond that as women. And this is
Mhm.
why, very likely, why I'm not actually married, because I actually refuse to get married under, like, I'm not signing a document that says the government's involved. Like, it would not be a legal document to say I'm legally bound to a man. And like,
Mhm.
the way, like, my parents are still together. They, married, never
Yeah.
divorced, definitely been through their shit. But the way I modeled in my childhood what marriage was, I'm like, if that's what marriage is, I don't want a bar of it. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Like, and no doubt I've
Yeah.
created not only subconscious, I'm conscious of those beliefs. Like, I'm so aware of what they are from doing this
Yes.
work, but I will not be bound to a man. And if I choose to change my mind, then that's okay. And I'm safe to do so. And not only that, coming into a conscious relationship with someone should be on the premise that we agree to continually go to each other's funerals. And when I say that, I mean the version of ourselves that have to die in
Mhm.
order for us to evolve constantly, individually and together within that
Yes.
relationship.
I 100% agree. And that's very much how my husband and our relationship has always been. And we talk it through, like how we kind of tag team leveling up and the hard shit. But then there's definitely those times where we're like, okay, it's you and me against the world, and we're leveling up. We're going through some hard shit right now, but we know we're leveling up. And it's that teamwork, that partnership that, you're in it fucking together no matter what. And as long as you have that solidarity, fucking amazing.
Exactly that. And that's one thing that I was really, I guess, sort of mind blown when my relationship this year dissolved, is because, we were in it together and
Hmm.
then we weren't. And so then it
Yeah.
was like, oh shit, okay, I've got to regroup and just, okay, call the pieces of myself back again. I've got this on my
Yeah.
own, and I'm, thriving as a
Yeah.
single woman in her 30s. Like, I'm doing my thing. I'm out, very occasionally out in the
Hmm.
dating world, sort of dipping my toe in, seeing what's out there. But I'm also so mindful of what my boundaries are,
Yeah.
that I'm so solid on my own. So if someone comes along and they want to dance through life together with me, there is a door open for that, but it's only open for someone that is so whole and complete in themselves that they are prepared to dance through life together, not be a missing piece of my life and I'm not a missing piece of their life.
Hmm.
And I think that's conscious relating. That's
Yeah.
having the awareness that we are not to fulfill each other's voids, really, that there is no void, that we're whole and complete as we are, and
Yeah.
we cannot dictate another person's growth or evolution. It's like what you're saying about your ex-husband. It's like, oh, we need to sit down and have a talk. Oh, by the way, I'm not really okay with you getting all this attention. Like, you look ridiculously hot in that bikini on stage. You are my wife. You get down off that stage and you get back in the kitchen. Like, that's the energy that I'm
Mhm.
feeling it was like, right?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so celebrating you right now, Michelle, for going, fuck you. I'm assuming that was the words you used.
Yeah.
But like, I'm outie. And obviously,
Yeah.
you've met your current husband, your new partner, and been like,
Mhm.
thank fuck I went through all that I had to go through
Absolutely.
in order to get to
Yeah.
that conscious relationship. Because I'm really curious, who would
Mhm.
you be if you had stayed in that 18-year marriage and just played yourself down? Who would you be today?
Oh my God. I would be so miserable. And honestly, I don't even, I mean, knowing who I am, now that I know who I am, I just don't even think I could have even gone back. There was no turning back for me. I had a taste of who I could be and what could be in store for me, and there was no turning back. But if I had stayed, if I had been like, okay, yeah, no, Michelle, you're making all the wrong decisions. You're gonna fuck up your family's salvation, like all the things you agree to with God, it's like null and void, like all if I had let all those things come in, then I still would have been sister wife.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
still would have been the homemaker, still like doing all the shit or
Yeah.
trying to. But I mean, look, my youngest kids are 15 and 17 now. Like they're almost I mean, they're young adults. Like
Yeah.
really, you know, I feed them and take them their sports stuff. That's about all I do now,
That's
you
all they
know?
need. They're pretty self-sufficient other than that. I get
So if I hadn't gone through my awakening at 36, then I am sure as hell, I totally know I would have gone through my awakening as, in the next few years. By 50, I would be doing it.
Mm,
So,
mm.
because yeah, I mean, I would have been in that place all over again. Kids out of the house, there's absolutely nothing. So now what? So if
Yeah.
I hadn't gone through it then, I would have gone through it in the future for sure.
And that's it. I think it's inevitable that we go through this.
Yeah.
Like we're not stuck. We're always evolving. And as women, we literally go through hormonal changes that changes
Mhm.
us. And do you know what's really interesting? I heard about this study a little while ago, which I found fascinating. And it actually was so true for me that when you're on the contraceptive pill, your sense of smell is different and
Mm.
reacts to a man's pheromones differently. And so I was on the contraceptive pill for, oh God, since I was 14. That's a different fucking podcast to begin with. But I was on the contraceptive pill whilst I was with my ex, the children's dad. And then when I got off the pill, I fell pregnant and had
Mhm.
babies. And it's like we just drifted apart instantly. And I remember him saying to me, especially after we had babies, he's like, you've changed. I'm like, I've got, I'm a mother now. Of course I've changed.
Of
What
course
do
I've
you expect
changed.
from me? But like, I didn't even see him the same way that I used to see him. And I
Mhm.
truly believe that like I was literally changing my hormones with the contraceptive pill for years, for like a decade and a half. And so it makes sense to me that, I got off the pill, I became a mother, I had deeper desires within to have a different experience of life. And he's over here like, you've changed, mate. We met in the clubbing scene, in the partying scene. We are having so much fun. I can't do that anymore. Of
Right.
course, I'm a different person, you know. Um,
Yeah.
but
I
it's
had the same conversations with my ex-husband too. Same thing. You're totally different. Like, yeah.
yes. Yes, and like literally, like the next man that comes into my life, I will say to him, "Here's an invitation to my next funeral, and you will get one every so often. If you're not coming to my funeral to celebrate the version that I was while I die and rebirth again, then I'm sorry, I'm not available."
Yeah.
And the same for him too. I want him to go through enough change that like I'm celebrating him on whatever his growth journey looks like, that I'm like, yes, die that
Right.
beautiful death and then rebirth again into this beautiful masculine man that you want to be.
Yeah, yeah. It should be a celebration. It should be so
Yes,
exciting. You should be the number one cheerleader,
exactly.
or
And
vice versa.
that's what
Yeah,
a conscious relationship is to me.
yeah,
So it's either that plus a whole heap of other things, or nothing for
yeah,
me. Like
yeah.
I'm not out there desperate trying to find a man. And look, I've got, time on my side. I've got children. My
Hmm.
biological clock isn't ticking going, "Oh God, I need some kids, banged out in that time."
Yeah.
So I've got the capacity to do so. But, any woman listening to this that's like, "Oh gosh, I think my relationship is not serving me and I truly can't have my awakening or be in my fullest expression," babe, check in with yourself with that,
Yeah.
because that is an invitation. And like I said, it is not necessarily about separating or divorce. It is having a conversation to say, "Hey, babe, I'm going on this journey. I really want to do some self exploration. I want to do some personal development or some spiritual development. I want to learn more about myself. Are you on the ride with me? Not is it
Yeah.
okay, but are you along for the ride with me? You don't have to do the same things that I do. You don't have to do personal development. You don't have to go see a therapist. You don't have to bungee jump or get into ice plunges or do breath work. But I'm on this journey and I see it so often that relationships shift a lot.
Yeah.
And it's not even romantic relationships, Michelle, like it's friendships, it's dynamic within
Yeah.
families. And the way I try to explain it to people is because we're all frequency. Okay,
Hmm.
so I'm in Australia. I'm based here in Queensland, and we have in Australia we have a radio station called Nova, and you can pick it up in basically every city. Now in Brisbane, if I was to tune into Nova, I'd tune into 106.9 FM, right? And so from where I'm at now in Brisbane, I can tune into Nova and I can hear whatever they're playing on that station. I can't tune into whatever the number coordinates are in Sydney. It's a different frequency. If I try and tune into that, all I get is static. Now, it's not saying that one is better than the other. They're just on a different frequency. And when we're going through our awakening or our evolution, we are literally vibrating at a different frequency, where if we're trying to relate to someone, there's just going to be static because of different frequency. No one's better or worse. It's not higher or lower. There's no hierarchical system to it. It's just a different frequency. And
Yeah.
so what I always say to people going through this journey is it could get really fucking quiet for you for a bit. You might
Mhm.
find that friendships drop off, that your relationship dissolves, that people don't understand you. Keep vibrating at that frequency, because you are going to attract people in that will understand you on a level that you're like, holy fuck, my people, my soul pod, where have
Yeah.
you been? Which what sounds like has happened, with your new husband, that you find
Yeah.
that you've met someone that you actually are on the same frequency with. And that is the magic.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad that you shared that piece, because it's 100%. Once you start shifting, you will see the people leaving your life, the people that don't understand, the people that don't vibe with you anymore are going to exit your life. But all it does is it allows for the people that are on your level to come in, and it is fucking fantastic when all of a sudden you're like vibing, like you said, like my people, you're here, and the friendships and relationships, and the marriage may go, the relationship may go, and the friends may go, but what's going to come in is like 100-fold, like fantastic. So
Mm-hmm.
I love that you share that piece. It's so true, and I see it all the time happening in my life as I make shifts
Yeah.
along the way in my journey.
And like the friends that I have in my circle in this time of my
Yeah.
life, I have never experienced such beautiful, heartfelt, soulful connections where it is an equal exchange of love and it is unconditional. Like I have the most beautiful friends, male and female, around me, and I couldn't do this journey without them. And it's interesting because the value then that I get to add to their life, just as much as they add value to my life, is such a beautiful thing to experience. And so when you are going through perhaps another phase of evolution or awakening, you've then got these pillars of light that are standing around you that actually get you because you're already on that same frequency.
Hmm.
That they get you and they hold space for you and they can speak
Yeah.
your language. The friends that I have around me that just say the things that I need to hear when I'm like in the depths of the void. and they'll say something and I'll be like, oh my God, I'd be fucking lost without you.
Right.
Like I could not do this on my own. Whereas if I look at the friendship circles that I once had as, the party girl or the
Mhm.
self-abandoning workaholic, that
Yeah.
served a purpose at the time, but it wasn't the depth that I needed. And now I look at the people around me and I'm like, oh man, we're like Soul Pod reunited.
Oh my God. 100%. Love it.
Yeah, yeah. We could talk all day about this
Mhm.
stuff, but I really just want to touch on how can people get in touch with you and work with you? What does that look like?
Sure. The best way to get in touch with me is through Instagram. My
Mm.
handle is Fiercely Authentic Coaching. So please, please, please slide into my DMs. I love chatting. Please say hi to me. And I would love to help give any guidance any way that I can. I do offer coaching programs, and that's something that we can talk about, and all the things. But ultimately, I just want to be, hold that safe, judgment free space for women to feel like they have a voice, feel like they can share, and someone's going to listen, and someone's going to hold their hand, and someone's going to help them through it.
I love it so much. Thank you so much. We will link to all
Mhm.
of that in the show notes. I have one final question for you, Michelle, before we
Mhm.
wrap this up. And to you, what is the meaning of life?
Oh my God. The meaning. Well, that's not a toughie. What's the meaning of life? Um, as I get older, to me, life isn't about the material things, the things that come and go. Life is becoming more and more about the experiences, the memories, and the legacy that's left behind. And that's what has become so important to me. So at the end of the day, I just want to raise good kids. I want to be the best that I can be. I feel that I am living a fulfilled and heart centered life, and make a lasting impact on future generations of my bloodline, really.
I love that. Thank you so much. You've been such
Mhm.
an incredible guest. I've really enjoyed our chat.
It's been
And
so
yeah,
fun.
it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I hope you love the Enlightened podcast, and the biggest compliment you can give me is subscribing to this podcast, sharing it, and leaving a rating and review. Feel free to follow me on Instagram. My handle is @JenHamiltonOfficial, and the podcast handle is enlightened_podcast. You can also find the video version on YouTube on my channel. Just search Enlightened and don't forget to hit subscribe. Have a beautiful day and enjoy living the enlightened journey of life.